Don't you get lonely? Being lonely sucks. We've all experienced it at one time or another, and sometimes happiness feels completely out of reach. If you're ready to overcome loneliness and move toward a life of joy and happiness, I would like to share 7 principles that can make all the difference in the world. These come from experiencing crushing loneliness in my life. When I was in college, I changed schools and returned to my hometown, transferring to the local college. All of my friends had left that town, and I spent months and months trying to make new friends. But ultimately, I completely failed. I'd find myself in tears at times, wondering what was wrong with me. What was I doing wrong? Eventually, I left that city and moved to Colorado, and I met and married a wonderful woman. We have 2 incredible sons, and we had a great life. Unfortunately, our marriage started to fail, and as often the case, we probably stayed together longer than we should have. The loneliness of a failing marriage can be really crushing. Loneliness simply sucks. Many experts believe that loneliness is as bad for your health as smoking. So let me share the 7 principles that you can use to overcome loneliness and move toward happiness. And then we'll dive into each of them in detail. Number 1, understand that thoughts drive emotions. Number 2, rewrite the rules. Number 3, lose the labels. Number 4, free yourself from what others think. Number 5, become obsessively curious. Number 6, embrace who you are and what you love. And number 7, learn to meditate. Okay, let's dive in. Principle number 1, understand that thoughts drive emotions. Your thoughts and the way you think are your most powerful tools for influencing your emotional state. Most people live their lives believing their emotions drive their thinking. In other words, I feel sad, so I think sad thoughts. The reality is that emotions do happen. They come bubbling to the surface. But what happens next is critical. That grain of sand that is an emotion can be made into a mountain by feeding it thoughts that make it grow. Or that grain of sand can be tossed to the side. The secret is being aware of the process that is happening inside your mind. For example, I travel almost full time. If I'm in a campground and I see a happy couple kissing, I could easily feel a twinge of loneliness. If my next few thoughts focus on the loneliness, that single grain of sand can grow and grow quickly. However, in that momentary feeling, if I choose to think about the freedom that my lifestyle gives me, then I can toss aside that emotion, that tiny little grain of sand, and create other feelings. I can think about how being single means I don't have to have the never-ending, "What do you want for dinner?" discussion. I can reflect on how I'll get up in the morning and go where I choose, without discussion and without any type of justification. The truth is that the human mind is a complex and fascinating entity. And the more we understand how it functions and how to optimize its performance, the happier we can become. Hopefully you're still with me. I know this can sound a little upside down, but once you begin using the power of your thinking to drive your emotions, the more likely you are to discover how you can be happy alone, or frankly, in any situation. Okay, before we proceed, let me explain that principle number 1 underlies all of these principles and helps each of them build upon one another. So even if you're a little fuzzy on the concept of thinking about your thinking driving your emotions, it will make more sense as we proceed. Principle number 2, rewrite the rules. In our lives, we operate with various norms and rules. Some of them we are very aware of, and we generally follow them pretty well. Don't cut in line. Say please and thank you. Some of them we aren't generally aware of, still, we follow them anyway, like facing forward in an elevator and not sitting directly next to someone in a movie theater if there are other open seats. Then there are other rules that float between conscious and unconscious thought, holding the power to create extremely potent emotions. One of the most influential of these is human beings are social creatures and need a significant other to be happy, or some form of that. And that is nothing more than a construct or a widely accepted idea that has permeated our culture, our media, our organizations, and more importantly, our minds. And it is not true. But because we hear variations of it from people around us, in the media, and in that little voice in the back of our head, we believe it to be true. Right now, in this second, begin rewriting that rule and make the rule a very simple one. I can be happy alone. Take a moment, press the pause button if you need to, and reflect on how that rule has been expressed in your life and how it's burrowing into your mind, surfacing in your consciousness to influence your thinking, and flush it out and replace it with the simple rule, I can be happy alone. Principle number 3, lose the labels. If you've ever taken a personality test, or listened to someone else describe you, or been asked to list your key characteristics, an ink pad and a stamp have been used to define you with specific words that have very specific meanings. Although those specific words you are labeled with may hold some truth, they cannot encompass all of your truth. But they can hold the power to confine you to a box that you don't belong in. They can shape your thinking, your self-image, your self-worth, and even influence your behavior. I learned this principle after a therapist called me out on it. While I was going through my divorce, my then wife and I both wisely decided to see therapists to help us navigate the process and to minimize the impact of the divorce on our sons. When I first began meeting with my therapist, his name was Phil, he asked me about myself. And one of the words I used to describe myself was a label that I had heard my entire life and I assumed to be true about me. So I put that label on my shirt and I wore it proudly because obviously this word must describe me. I am an extrovert. One of the challenges I faced during this period of my life was the loss of social connections and time spent with others. That happens during a divorce. I felt isolated. As an extrovert, I thrive on being around people. Well, it wasn't happening. But during this time, I began hiking more regularly. I even gave myself a challenge to solo summit the highest peaks in Rocky Mountain National Park. I had a session with Phil the day after completing a massive solo hike. He asked me to describe my emotional state at the end of the hike. I said, I felt like I was on top of the world. I mean, literally, I stood on top of a mountain and could see what felt like the entire world. I was jazzed. I was pumped up. I might have been physically exhausted, but I felt truly energized. Phil reminded me that I had described myself as completely extroverted. He pointed out that what I had described during that hike was feeling energized when I was alone, which is somewhat the opposite of being an extrovert. He didn't point this out to make me feel bad. He pointed it out that I like you and everyone else, use labels to describe ourselves that aren't necessarily accurate and are often not only limiting, but can also be harmful. They can drive your thoughts. They can amplify negative emotions. Since I considered myself an extrovert and was suddenly not around people as much as I had been before, I had to be feeling a sense of loss and loneliness, right? Well, wrong. Once I understood that the labels I had applied to myself were influencing my thinking and therefore influencing my emotions, I stripped the labels away and worked to see myself without the labels. It was liberating. What labels do you apply to yourself? I'll wager not a single one of them is 100% accurate. What might happen if you decided to remove your labels and just be you? Hey, before we proceed, can I ask you a favor? If you're enjoying this video, please press the like button and the subscribe button below. That will help get this video to more people interested in learning about how to be happy alone. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Principle number 4, free yourself from what others think. Gosh, that sounds so simple, doesn't it? We've all heard this over and over, yet we continue performing for an invisible audience, tailoring our words, filtering our actions, even shaping our ambitions to fit the expectations we never agreed to. Whether it's family, friends, coworkers, or even strangers on the internet, the fear of judgment quietly guides too many of our choices and actions. But here's the truth. Most people are too wrapped up in their own insecurities to think about you for very long. And those who do judge you, their opinions usually say more about their limitations than yours. Whether it's that relative asking, "Why aren't you dating?" or someone cooing about their perfect relationship and making you feel less for not having one, take a mental step back and ask yourself why you care about their opinion. Ask yourself, what rules are they mentally trapped in? And flip the script. Let them have their narrow, rigid view of reality while you expand your horizons and work to find what makes you truly happy without being tied to another human to make those around you feel more comfortable. Principle number 5, become obsessively curious. This may sound kind of strange, but I believe it is an effective way to unlock your thinking and discover how to be happy while you're alone. Becoming obsessively curious is almost magical in its ability to shift your thoughts and emotions. Curiosity shifts your focus from problems to possibilities. Instead of ruminating on what's wrong or your current emotional state, be curious and ask yourself, what's driving your emotions? What thoughts are you getting stuck on? Where could you drive your mind instead? Curiosity also fuels presence, and this is really huge. Being curious means you naturally pay closer attention to your surroundings, conversations, emotions. It's that deep engagement that is the core ingredient of joyful living. Curiosity also keeps your mind expanding rather than contracting. A curious mind resists stagnation. You're more likely to grow, evolve, and discover new passions that excite you. It also dissolves judgment. When you're curious about people, instead of labeling them or wondering why they don't follow certain rules, the relationships you want to have can improve, and so can your sense of connection. It also alerts you when it's time to distance yourself from certain people in your life. Curiosity is one of these things that really is a secret formula to take your thinking from being a negative that drives negative emotions to being something that powers happiness in your life. Principle number 6, embrace who you are and what you love. Once you develop an obsessive curiosity, many aspects of yourself start to become clearer, and you become more self-reflective, realizing what you generally enjoy. This person you start to see is someone you need to learn to embrace and not be afraid of what generally interests you. As you embrace who you are and what you love, a couple of truly extraordinary things start to happen within you. First, you begin to quiet some of your self-doubts and self-judgments, and you start to realize that self-worth is not contingent on others. It is grounded in you and measured by you. You also start to recognize that you're a wonderful companion for yourself. This allows you to feel happiness even when you're all by yourself. And believe it or not, you might even discover a sense of peace in total isolation. I often wander off into national forests, find a completely secluded spot away from anyone, and spend a week or two completely alone and completely happy. Once you know what you generally enjoy, free from the static and noise of others' opinions, you might uncover a genuine passion. This passion may attract other like-minded individuals and build relationships and friendships. Your world can shift its focus with more time to engage in activities that fulfill your soul and bring you happiness. And you may even find yourself making radical changes in your life for something truly important to you and for you. And there is nothing like discovering who you are and what you love, and then being able to pursue that and be happy doing it. Okay, it's time for a little shift here. Principle number 7 is learn to meditate. If we take a step back and take a look at the first 6 principles, you can see how they tightly interconnect and they interact and they build upon one another. Principle number 7, or learning to meditate, really focuses on enhancing the strength of the first 6. It works on bringing your mind, your thoughts, and focus more under your conscious control. I'm not going to delve into the specifics of how to meditate. There are many different approaches, and I honestly believe that any of these methods will serve you well if you want to apply these principles, overcome feelings of loneliness, and live a life filled with happiness and joy. Personally, I favor the Shambhala method of meditation, which emphasizes clearing the mind and cultivating a very intense focus on the breath. I discovered this method by reading a book titled Turning the Mind into an Ally. I'll include a link in the description below if you're interested. One of the things that I love about meditation is that it unlocks your thinking. It's really easy to get stuck in a rut of repetitive thinking, pretty much about anything. Meditation basically lubricates the gears of your brain, provides more traction to your thoughts, and allows you to change gears more smoothly. And if you take these principles to heart, meditation will help you bring them to the surface of your thinking, enabling you to apply the concepts and banish loneliness from your life, ultimately discovering how to be happy alone, which is part of the goal here, isn't it? Okay, let's wrap this up. Being happy alone, choosing how to live your life, and defining yourself and how you achieve happiness are within your reach. Remember and apply these 7 principles. Understand that thoughts drive emotions. Rewrite the rules. Lose the labels. Free yourself from what others think. And become obsessively curious, which enables you to embrace who you are and what you love. And finally, take the time to learn to meditate. Hey, do you have something to add to this conversation? Have you discovered something that you'd like to share with others about how to be happy alone? Please comment below. And if you haven't hit those like and subscribe buttons yet, please do so now. I greatly appreciate it, and it does help get this video out to more people. And remember, embracing this crazy adventure of life is the key to unlocking your radical human potential.